Since the dawn of history, people have been wondering and trying, not everyone, but many of them, trying to understand what our place in the world actually is, how human thought and consciousness evolved. But there's one person who always intrigues me because his thinking is so original. And now you've also published a book, Dr. Yoav Ashkenazi, you're a philosopher, From the Enchanted World to Mechanical Time, the story of man and
his images.
Wow.
Wait, are we going to see it? Mickey. I'm here in Vienna and I received a limited number of copies. I'm keeping them safe and protecting them with my life.
So they won't get lost, because that's the proof of the years of research you've done. And in general, you're constantly observing, and every observation of yours becomes a new book.
You mean I'm obsessive? I can't stop. It's like someone who got on a roller coaster and can't get off.
Because you feel like it's pressing on you, meaning you feel it's, I argue that it's an engine of curiosity.
Interesting. Some argue that, the optimists among us. The pessimists like Wittgenstein say it comes from anxiety. Or Berger, meaning the engine is, and Kafka, that the engine is actually anxiety. Wittgenstein says somewhere that whoever the source of philosophical problems is anxiety, and whoever doesn't have this anxiety suffers from a loss of problems or something, a loss of like a deep connection to reality or something like that. So it really depends on how you look at it. Curiosity is being nice.
You know, I do think it comes from curiosity, because
that too.
I know that curiosity in general is an engine for conversation between people, for a person's conversation with their environment. You know, what does a newborn baby do? That's exactly what they do. They start exploring the whole world. And that's curiosity. It's something that is deeply embedded within us. There are those who take it and push it aside, and nothing interests them. Like, they don't care. And there are those like you where every question is a book.
No, I wouldn't make me out to be a normal or desirable case for anyone. But one of my biggest anxieties is that someone would think like me or live like me or behave like me. That's against my entire understanding of what ethics is. But yes, of course, curiosity is involved in it. But the question of what the fundamental motives or things like that are is a very complex question. I would say that fear and desire are more fundamental than curiosity or something like that. But that's, you know, that's, it really depends on how you look at things. You can look at this from several angles.
Yes, the concept that fear drives us in many things, I agree with you. Yes, that's it's a common way of thinking in the world of philosophy, that basically what drives us is fear, anxiety, and all that.
That too. But I said fear and desire.
That too. Okay.
You're right that that the branch of philosophy that was dominant in the 20th century, called the pessimistic Frankfurt School of Philosophy, the various post-Marxists and those who drew strength from Marx, and those who and also those who came after them, who had already seemingly detached themselves from Marxism, the French pessimists, meaning Deleuze, Derrida. You're 100% right that this is indeed a view that characterizes them, while at the same time they experience a massive alienation from reality, and they experience that there is also no cure for alienation. Perhaps the most extreme is Adorno, who basically says there is no way out, meaning for us, modernity is pure alienation. It's a good question. How do you look at our history to understand what kind of creatures are we? You can't escape this and say, I, the human, I'm like this and that, and therefore the world is like this and that, or jump to the world and say the world is like this and that, so I, the human, I'm like this and that. It has to be, meaning it's clear that the connection and the relationship is the place from which we must start. That's also one of the insights that led to the book. It can be phrased in another way that relates to the natural sciences. We are processes, we are not things. We also don't know anything that isn't a process, or a process of processes, or systems of processes that convert systems of systems. We have no grasp on anything else in the world.
So, let's go to the ancient world.
Okay.
Which you basically see as an enchanted world?
No, I see. We need to make this clear here. In our world, it's customary to talk about a plurality of metaphysics. I'm 100% sure you know what I'm talking about. A variety of metaphysics. There are many ways to understand this sentence. I will understand this sentence in the most direct way possible. And if I don't understand all this and that, then forget it. But I explain it in a nonsense. In the entire history of humanity until the beginning of the 20th century, maybe the end of the 19th century, except in the minds of a few thinkers or small pockets, there is only one metaphysics, and one only, whose expressions are many and ways of looking at it are different, but it is exactly the same metaphysics, and it is called, there are many ways to describe it. I use the word that is least harmful in my opinion. It's called animism. What is animism? Animism is simply the understanding, which is a physical understanding. It's not a theoretical understanding, the vision. You actually see things that way and you feel them in your body. That everything in our world that we live in has some kind of soul. And it is connected in some spiritual connection with all other things. And the main expression of this soul is personality, or aspects of personality. So this flower wants to enchant me so that I fall in love with this woman. This spring, whoever bathes in it, their hearing is sharpened. This water, whoever drinks it is cured of all diseases, because this is water in which some saint was buried, some saint bathed once. The movement of the moon brings out dangerous forces or sub-divine entities, the movement and so on. The whole world, the seasons, the trees, the things, the natural things, everything, by the way, also mechanical, everything like that had a god or a soul or expressions that today in modernity we would attribute only to other humans. That was the view. And it is the view until the 20th century. Max Weber writes that even at the beginning of the 20th century, there is almost nothing you could, meaning, if you stand next to a French peasant's field, there is almost nothing you can do that won't be considered an attempt to enchant the field. Like something like that. That's a quote of his. And the world is completely enchanted and completely connected. We're not talking here about something that we shed completely. And we're talking here about something that characterizes the entire history of humanity, whether it's Paleolithic societies, hunter-gatherers, whose ritual conjures up large animals. Yes, the whole group moves together, tells the story of its origin, who its animal is, who the parent is, how the dead parents who are joined to the ceremony every year, sometimes as a mummified corpse, sometimes as bones. They tell the story of their being and become this thing. We are the tribe of this and that animal, of those parents, we do this and that. That's how identity is created. That's the way for man to become human, if you will, to transition from a tribe of apes to a hominid tribe, human-like, was basically to enchant the world. Because when you come out of the ritual with the community, you still see the world in terms of the ritual. You manage to stop the anxiety. We rose from the anxiety. Time. You started to block time. What does time do? So the anxiety is every second something can eat me. Nothing is stable. I can't hold on to anything. The original anxiety is a kind of pulse like you see in animals when they are stressed, a kind of inability to stand anywhere. The ritual puts an end to this through the body by structuring a mythical image of the world that identifies the community with aspects of it, usually with a specific personality, a specific animal, assimilates it into nature, and assimilates nature into a cosmos of cyclical time, and from now on the rituals determine time. Now we do rites of passage, now we go to plow, and so on. That's in the Paleolithic world. This thing transitions as it is from the Paleolithic hunter-gatherer worlds. Don't be alarmed by the words, please. Words are just words. To the Neolithic worlds. Neolithic is agricultural. Don't be alarmed by the word. Don't freak out. Agricultural. In the agricultural world, this is preserved in worlds of like the Israelites, when you are between tribalism and agriculture, באותו דנופותים כוורדש פרלומי, כל פה בודנוף לבמנת, פריצ'רין ופומר, אכד, and the later empires, דהן אושד, ואלי פשרין בלדת שעדה חוללוך, ואיזה לכפורמל בולו חלקד, בודון האם תפר על בי נוכל תאגין אתו אינתקד סילואיס כמו תירי את שיטן, יתזני אונוס באו ויטרול. כמובן, תפף מביזק, סומר מוטה בו ליקול תתן דזות הסנצ'ל. This gains מאוד זה פטיף עם הפלקדי ארכיב, זה באינפפנו אנשים דוית, בלי את הציליטורל קונסטריישן שקבע שבאינבסטד דוף דלתתם מונמתי סייף שנצ'רי, בחיומביין פייטי סאונד פטקסואנש וכל הדנוטנטיס מעטין הקבל, נראו משם מותניום צאי נעבב פריקסואנצה דצייתני מצרל, בתרי נפרי סנצ'רי.
So you're basically saying this, I mean, actually you call it דרשות בנפרעומטרו, על הדסך בפסיף אחר, שום לא, הרות, פלגיטרות, פתת, קולת, יש לבטוליש, I call it my רצנותיי. That's not my invention, right? It's Tversky and Kahneman's. Because why do I say bounded? Because there are still those who live in what you describe in this world.
I completely understand what you're saying. I think this way. We all live in the enchanted world. We haven't freed ourselves from it. I agree with Kahneman and Tversky's idea. The problem with Kahneman and Tversky is that they are caught up in an image of secularization that I don't agree with. They think of the movement from the 15th century to us as a movement of shedding the dirty clothes of religion for some clean rationality. Now, that's not true. There is no clean rationality, not even logic and not even mathematics. Rational in most societies, in most times from that they used in the, 18th century, basically the meaning, and in most uses in language, its meaning is normal. Someone who doesn't behave in the street, that's it, normal. That's rational. This whole idea that there is some rational system or logic that will test the rational is itself not rational. Now, you can, I'm saying this about myself, but that's what I think. But there are two ways to relate to what you're saying. One is simultaneous, synchronic, how things work inside an ordinary person like you and me. And the second is to tell the historical story. So if we move for a second to the synchronic, we'll say it like this. Mickey has bodily sensations and bodily feelings. He also has a system of images through which he sees the world that give background to things. For example, the image that things in the world are explained from within and not from without. Someone will come and tell him, listen, I suddenly got a headache. He won't explain it as some God putting it in, right? In some beam to the head, right? And he'll say, listen, there's some state in the body that I can explain from the laws of the world and health and matter and blah and this, and I'll show you why you got a headache. This image, Mickey doesn't see it, he sees through it. Now that's all of us, it's not just Mickey, I'm just saying Mickey, right? So that it's personal between us, because I like the personal, but it's each of us. What happened in history, in the evolution of humanity, which is not biological evolution, right? It's extra biological evolution. I'm talking about the extra biological aspects. It's that the bodily system of the ritual mimicry that I described earlier, through which we felt reality, underwent conversion by a system of mythical images. And this conversion in modernity, not in modernity, from the first centuries AD, BC, starts to undergo a theoretical conversion. That is to say, first of all, there was the system. It's a system that feels and senses. It is converted by a mythical system that imagines and gives background to things. And this is converted by a theoretical system that arranges concepts in a logical order and in causal explanations and so on. And the last conversion is the conversion that converted all the other systems into its form. Nietzsche talks about this when he talks about consciousness as the most withered organ of man, but he talks about the observing consciousness, about reflection, and in this he is right. I'm talking about the whole ability to arrange the world in a way that you called rational, conceptual, or causal connections, or yes, something that can go into a table, or right? All this theoretical awareness, which is the awareness that developed last, gave its form to the other types of awareness through which we actually interact with reality in the direct sense. So that's in synchrony. Nothing was lost. There is simply a disconnect between us and ourselves, or between us and the ways in which we are in the world. The world never starts from me being a subject and you standing before an object or something external disconnected from us. It starts from a prior affinity. Somehow we adapted and it adapted to us and an affinity was created. And from this affinity, relationships are created that are relationships of resonance. Relationships in which I can feel nature within me or the other person within me. Everyone knows this. With a loved one, with art, with impressive nature. You can feel that you also remain yourself, Mickey, but you are also in interaction with something else that somehow speaks to you in your language. Afterwards, you don't exactly know what to say about this thing usually. But if we didn't have such experiences, we wouldn't want to live. Life starts from this, not from alienation. Alienation is necessary for these experiences, but it's not a primary structure in my eyes. It's simply necessary so that experiences of resonance can exist at all. Otherwise, you would just be swept into the flow of things. That means our experience of the world is distorted. We lost connection and social awareness, not just personal. It's not that you do a mystical process now and you discover things. No, this is something that must be social, these perspective shifts. We disconnected from ourselves for the following reason, and now I'm moving to the historical mode. Modernity is a great movement that goes like this. On one side, it opens new axes, a lot of new axes in which you can experience naturalness and resonance with things, that things speak to you in your language. Family, which didn't exist in the Middle Ages or in any ancient world. Relationships within the family are social relationships. They are not relationships of love, of mutual echoing or mutual resonance. Relationships with the woman you love or the man you love, I'm not judging. Nature as the source of work, as a place where you need to find yourself, the calling, the personal calling to realize yourself, expression. All of these are new axes of resonance that did not exist before the 14th, 15th, 16th centuries. They started to become institutionalized. But it did this, especially from the 17th century onwards, but it had already happened before. It did this in a mode that creates alienation, in a mode of polished instrumental rationality. They build structures, institutions, concepts, tick, 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 tick. And as a result of this thing, which continues today 1,000 times stronger with technology, the whole world is accelerating in a crazy way and is experienced more and more as alienated and unfamiliar. But notice, it started from a movement like this, not like that. It started from just a desire for much deeper human personal self-realization and self-expression in the world than existed in the past, and a completely new concept of individuality.
So I'll take this to something. Let's say that I go with you and the development of industry and I will be richer, I will do everything, and it's not so bad. From my factory, sewage will flow, polluting the streams and all these things, because I need to succeed. It doesn't matter what happens.
That's not, you're exaggerating a bit with that.
I'm doing it on purpose.
No, because I don't know a person who initiated something as big as a factory just because they wanted to succeed. It comes from much deeper places. Anxiety, a sense of duty, but thinking that he is thus benefiting society. That is to say, there is a lot here. He is not cynical most of the time.
He's not cynical, but he only thinks of himself.
I would say that thinking only of
himself. I'm not talking about the simple person who came and
no, I think
I'm talking about those who are big cartels, that I call it a kind of bulimia.
I agree with you, but here it's not a person thinking of himself. It's precisely an alienated mode. The mode becomes the way of doing is wrong. By the way, also the reverse. Also in the attempt to deal, for example, with the climate, it won't help us to stop wasting resources. There is no problem with wasting resources, but you have to know how to do it simply. We are doing it wrong. We are also trying to solve problems wrong from the top down in an alienated mode. I can also give you examples.
So wait, so before that, you're getting exactly into what I wanted to ask you. So that means, so I destroyed the environment around me because I need to dump the sewage. They didn't care about that. Today, in some places, they do care. But the matter of the reaction, basically nature gives you a reaction. It tells you you're making a mess. Fine. Here is the reaction. You'll have a worse life. Because if my life, nature's life, is bad, yours will be bad too.
Well, that's a bit of an anthropomorphic mode. I relate to it because I like romanticism, and I myself somewhat belong to that place. But I think things are much, much, much more complex than that.
Because I claim that nature also has its own ethics and its own lines of thought, even though we think we are above it.
I really like those ideas. I wouldn't go so far as to say ethics regarding nature, but some basis for ethics in humans exists in animals, exists in that I know. The capacity for empathy, which is perhaps the basis of ethics, and several other capacities of animals.
Empathy is when we know, because the word empathy is human, but we don't know what a rock thinks. We don't know what the river thinks, what it feels, because we are only the world of emotions, as if that's the only thing, and as if others don't feel, because we don't know.
I wouldn't say that something that isn't a living process that changes itself from some internal force, it's hard for me to say that it feels. So I stop at plants or bacteria in life, in the bacteria that created this world. Let's say prokaryotes or eukaryotes. That's my stopping point. Yes?
I went all the way.
Yes. I know you went to what's called deep ecology. So I'm not sure that this deep ecology is. Look, I don't really care if it's true or not true as a description. What I care about is if it's useful or not useful for the life of this world and ours.
It can be useful if you understand that if you work correctly with your environment, your life will also be good. That means
on that we can agree. The question is I see ecological movements shooting themselves in the foot. The UN sends mosquito nets to Africa because they discovered that so and so many are killed there by malaria every year. They die from it. They send nets with a substance on them, poison, so the mosquitoes couldn't get through. What do the Africans do? Turn them into fishing nets, destroy all the rivers, pollute all the rivers, death of the fish population. The UN sees that African women spend most of their time doing laundry. Most of the day, that's what they do. So it buys them washing machines. Within a few months, the entire society of women that was on the rivers and on the lakes, passing on information and ways and methods of work and life and energies and spirit and emotions, broke down. And of course, women have a lot of time. What happens? They are at home. What happens then? The murder rates of women rise sharply because a man and a woman are at home. That's the kind of thinking, this top-down, rational, seemingly rational, sharp, instrumental thinking that doesn't come and say, wait, a person is first of all a community, then he is an individual. Let's talk to communities and individuals.
Okay, that means also as a community, and let's expand the matter, we are basically learning, because you are talking about this world, which is a very mechanical world. But even in a mechanical world, you get a reaction and you don't act alone. It's not a mechanical world where you can operate the machine and it...
No, but that was never true. The different systems, the human ones, it's always an interdependence where you can't operate the thing by yourself. You need the whole world. That seems to me to be general. What seems to me to have changed a lot is actually the speed. Time became homogeneous and mechanical. That means there are no high times, low times, time when God becomes a mouse, and time when, yes, the whole community, yes? There is no penetration of something beyond that changes time. Time runs the same way all the time. And since about the 15th century, we have been experiencing a crazy acceleration, both in our movement across the planet, also institutionally. Yes, the whole community, yes? There is no penetration of something beyond that changes time. Time runs the same way all the time. And since about the 15th century, we have been experiencing a crazy acceleration, both in our movement across the planet. It also economically, that means capitalism and all that, also technologically, and also personally. Today, if this were a lecture and you were bored here, your hand would already be sending emails about me. That means in your natural state, you would have already opened WhatsApp or email, or you are incapable. And you and I, you are 60 plus, 70 plus, I am 50 plus. Think about what's happening with the kids. Yes, it's it's a terrible cheese. It's a wait. And and this people burn out. It's these still things. Either you as הדמח את או של 100 של אם burn את הכפיז אחר, which you do go בסופים, או מחר, כאילו desdes emachol, af nichlo guametra, if kilmo bushes epaps. Auta kilpor, kilpam shifasi overleft, klaplushes often no beden, be nechna potrum kilti of the guamet. You crisis is a kampots lachai let mentifuniam what to zviv, and yes, rodo. They have Modorber everything apart. We destroyed everything. It's like a Greta kind of thing, or post-Marxism, or Marxism itself, or Adorno, or Horkheimer, that whole Frankfurt crowd. Many even today, yes, from the pessimists and the French pessimists and so on. And on the other side, you can say what? Because what? Look how many people are living. Look how many people have shelter and food and basic human dignity. Look how many people are literate. Diseases, vaccines, movement, human possibilities. Yes, just that. The first position says we were in some more organic mode with things more flowing, where time suited us more, the world suited us more. We could live among things and not live only one dial or one picture. And we lost everything and there is no going back. And the second says we were in the darkness of religious stupidity. They always blame religion. That's a trait of the progress people, that they cannot understand religion because they are too possessed by a religious approach of their own. They, the progressives and the atheists, it's a very, very intense religious approach that is unaware of its religiosity. Its religiosity is expressed in the fact that it expresses all aspects of how we became secular from the, 15th, 14th, 15th century until today. And with them, indeed, there is none. Religion was like dirty clothes we put on, and now we've all stripped and we see that we are basically the same person. Reason, rationality, instrumental reason. Yes, we will build the world according to our own will. That's the 18th century. In philosophy, you can see continental philosophy tends toward the pessimistic side. Analytic philosophy tends toward the optimistic side because that's more enlightenment, and this is more counter-enlightenment or a critique of the Enlightenment. And the truth is that both of these positions have no place, in my view, in a reasonable world.
Look, nothing that is extreme this way or that way. You know, you always have to find the middle ground.
But it's more than that. I'm telling you a specific historical story about how these positions were born. They are both deeply Christian positions, and secularization is a Christianization of the soul. Secularization begins with a Christianization of the soul. Yes, there are values in Christianity that don't sit well with pagan society, like freedom, like equality among human beings, at least before God. Yes, a woman, a slave would come to me.
But that's also true for Judaism.
Obviously, we are part of this thing because modernity is Christian.
You're going to Christianity, which Judaism came before. It's basically Judaism and Christianity are the same thing in this regard.
That's a good question. What is before and after? I don't know if what you'd call it is exactly Judaism, but certainly foundational elements like reading the Torah, the idea of the law, all kinds of things that were definitely there.
And the removal of human responsibility, meaning you're not responsible for anything, basically. It's only God.
No.
All the rabbis.
It's not. No such dogmas exist in Judaism. It doesn't exist. Even in Christianity, it doesn't exactly exist because you are responsible for your soul to be in. But
that's on a theoretical level. But on a practical level, something happens to you, you say it's from heaven.
No, never. No, not at all. Certainly not in Judaism. There's a bit of that in Christianity, but Judaism is very much not like that.
Why do Haredi Jews say it's from heaven?
You're taking a phenomenon
and act on the decree of rabbis.
Fine, because we went through in a certain way, we took on the form of modern Christianity. Modernity is Christian. But overall, a Jew who doesn't know how to read and write in Aramaic and Hebrew and in the other language they live in won't remain a Jew. If you're not able to participate in the ritual in Hebrew, read the prayers, and hear the reading of the Torah, which is the bare minimum, you won't remain in Judaism. You have no interest. If you're not a merchant or a city person or someone who has an interest, or a lawyer or whatever, who has an interest in their child learning to read and write, you won't remain in Judaism. It only keeps workers who are able to read the text. Now, anyone who is Jewish is supposed to be able to understand on their own what to do. We don't turn to a rabbi for everything. A rabbi is for when you have some kind of problem. You're supposed to stand. The text is built so that it's a conversation of thousands of years, right? How is the Talmudic text built? Yes, the Mishnah on the scripture, the Gemara on the Mishnah, and then you have different commentaries on the sides of, yes, you have Rashi, you have all kinds of commentaries by different commentators.
And there are rabbis who all the time, throughout the generations, it's not many years, but it's hundreds of years, that there have been rabbis who are basically the guides and tell you what to do. And you work.
Well, you probably don't know Jewish communities. Jewish communities in the Middle Ages were not ruled by rabbis. It's not exactly.
No, I said now. I'm talking about now.
So you're fine. So century.
I'm not talking about ancient times.
Fine. The moment that Jews, they are part of the Christian world undergoing secularization, then of course they adopt the forms of the Christian world. That's completely obvious. And the new form of religiosity was a kind of Baroque religiosity in the 16th, 17th century, which on one hand holds all kinds of images of divine authority and all that, and on the other hand also introduces a concept of human freedom and rights and equality. And this mixture you see today among Haredim. You see a girl, they go to interview a Haredi woman, they take her to, she already became a boy, or she's not a boy, she's just a lesbian, and she goes to her neighborhood and they found her friend and she talks to her from below. She can't talk to her, so they talk from, and then they ask the friend next to that one. I said, tell me, but when she was young, and what do you think about all this? She says, look, this is what she is. You can't, says a Haredi woman who doesn't even leave the house to talk to them, in the middle of Bnei Brak. She says to him, look, a person, that's the root of their soul. You can't take away the root of their soul. What root of their soul? What there is forbidden and there is permitted, Mickey said. What's here? The answer is that these values of personality and self-expression and freedom are originally part of what created modern Haredism and modern Orthodoxy and all modern streams. And it's true that they can come together with concepts and images, also different ones from the 16th and 17th centuries that weren't related, and even from before. But they are there in this pairing. And you don't.
But how do you explain what's happening now, in light of what you wrote, that you see people who are attributing everything to the decree of providence, to the rabbinical decree, everything?
Look,
there is someone dictating everything to us, and we will act according to what is written. There is no reality. Meaning,
I want you to remember the following number: 28%. 28% of Haredim in Israel say they live according to the rabbi's commands. Nice or not nice? This is a connection with Haredi institutes, untouched.
Despite what you say, accepts the command.
Wait, Mickey, I only gave the punch from the right, from the left. I'm now bringing the right one.
Okay.
Just a second. That was a small punch. And on the contrary, after all, the right gives small ones and the left gives the big one. But fine, if you're right-handed. I'm about to bring you the big punch. In my opinion, a similar percentage of the population believes exactly the same thing, but about science, about reason, and just put the Torah in that and he will tell you Naor Narkis. Have you heard of Naor Narkis? For Naor Narkis, it is 100% clear that he doesn't need, that his atheist position that denies the existence of God is neutral. He doesn't need to make a leap of faith to reach it. But wait, is there some perspective or some human rational inquiry ability that can look at all things at once and say they created them or didn't create them? Physics argues about this, where it came from, like there is no. So wait, so here you need to make a leap of faith, right? We don't have a rational. So what's the big difference? There are people before you who talk about atheism exactly like that. I don't know what these percentages are among the Haredim. Probably among the Haredim it's a bit larger because after all they were closed off. They talk to you about some absolute belief. The truth, both of them know deep down the truth. That's why they are nervous. They know without understanding that they know that every modern truth claim is accompanied by doubt. That is the essence of modernity. The essence of the epistemology, of the modern cognitive mind, what they call in philosophy epistemology. Don't be alarmed, don't be alarmed. It's that nothing you claim is closed forever and general and necessary. Everything is always open to doubt. There will always come a moment, or a moment because of which you, or can always come. The very understanding that it can always come. By the way, I see that you want to talk, but I'll say one more word. This is a direct product of our concept of time. In the past, you had a circular, cyclical concept that closed time. No radical change could come. Everything would always be like this. At harvest, we get the this. On Rosh Hashanah, we renew the universe. It doesn't matter. The moment a concept of time entered, in which the future is determined by us, open, or a concept of freedom or a concept of time, whichever way you want to see it. Our concept of freedom to shape our future, or a concept that the future is open. The moment it became common knowledge, then a moment can always come that will make you change your mind, that will make you see that you were wrong in the past, right? By the way, it took a long time. You notice that Nazism and communism and fascism and also neoliberalism avoided open time. They froze it. These either froze the future, yes, the perfect Reich of the future, the perfect fascist state, the time of communism, and from it derived how to act in the present, or they froze elements of the system. The market is God, it determines everything. Freedom is neutral. It is, yes, you are an entrepreneur. You are always an entrepreneur. You are always utilitarian. You are always rational. You always want to maximize, as Kahneman proved, not in his degree then. In his degree, it was already after. I participated in that too as a student. Like I filled out the form. I didn't participate in any other way. Where was I? I forgot.
You were on the concept of time.
Yes. So the concept. So today we are living through a major crisis of time. We understand that we can no longer freeze a dynamic or some element that we created or something we introduced to a person or the world, and we also can't freeze the future. And we know that we create this future, and we know that the past changes. It's not frozen like it used to be, where Moses gave us something and now we just carry on like that. And this is the modern condition. It was like that before too. It's just that these elements operated more in the unconscious background. Today they are rising more and more into consciousness, but there is no difference between Mr. Naor Narkis and the people of faith who argue with him. Both represent a certain amount of people in reality who are unable to contain the idea that truth always comes with doubt. And the reason they can't contain it is that their identity is perceived by them as part of some necessary and general truth about things. For example, that there is no such thing as a correct sexuality. Yes, Naor Narkis is gay and has a partner. So there is no such thing as a correct sexuality. There are simply no limits on correct sexuality other than harming others, right? And therefore, anyone who says a man and a woman is good is an idiot. Now, that's going far, jumping many steps. Or conversely, you can come from the other side and criticize. But in the end, the criticism is the same criticism. We have no truth from anywhere to say homosexuality is good in general, heterosexuality is good in general, do only this, do only that. The world is open and complex. It's clear to us that we can't say there is one way to live our lives in the sexual context and in many other contexts. But it's not clear to us what the limits on them are at all. And these are things that develop and are revealed to us over time. And we need to know how to move at the right pace and understand how the different systems of our moral, personal, and social criteria work. And here I think we are failing profoundly.
So I still want to, because you come from the world of philosophy, and I'll go for a moment. Let's go back to our sources. To me, you are a kind of prophet, okay? One of the prophets, not that you predict, but the ability to think and open, but the priests minister and priesthood is with very clear things.
Thank God.
It gets passed on. It gets passed on. It gets passed on, and it continues. And you have the one truth that exists.
Wait.
There is only one truth.
Stop. No problem. You can say there is only one truth, God. You still leave everything open. The problems only start when you take specific and explicitly empirical sentences and start seeing God created the world in 6 days, and from now on we must do this and that because of this and that. When you fall into the details and you start unpacking interpretations and turning it into instrumental instructions, then the problems start. You start thinking that a mitzvah is a law, or that a mitzvah is, and a law is basically a rule, like a mechanical rule of a machine, like this.
God, and there are laws, and there are...
Wait, Mickey, but I want to ask you something else. In modern society, there are many people now. Everyone needs to live, right? Everyone deserves to live, right?
Of course.
No, I'm asking you personally. Everyone deserves to live with dignity, right? Reasonable, basic, not to be humiliated. Food, shelter, not to be completely humiliated in the face of reality, yes? Okay? At the base, right? Now, society is made up of many sub-societies, and each such society was created out of certain organic relationships. In the case of Israel, out of crises of transition from abroad where they chased you or whatever. Yes, everyone arrived by hook or by crook, whoever it was. In every such community, there were wheels that are still stuck in the traditional world. And if you don't turn them, then large parts of the community will drift away, won't be able to hold on to it. We are constantly
100% to...
Now we are constantly managing a situation of many extremes within sub-communities and within the state and the larger community and so on. If we now start a war of annihilation, even if we are right, we will wipe out humanity. The priests, by the way, just to give you an idea, the priests in the Second Temple believed in almost nothing. They have an almost Epicurean view of reality. What is Epicurean? The gods don't affect us. There is a mechanism. We need to do this sacrifice in this and that way so that this and that happens.
I call them the slaughterers.
On the contrary, they are the most rational in terms of if you looked at them from the 18th century, you would say these are the most rational people who ever lived. Kant would say of them, these are super rational people. They understood that nature is mechanical, that God does not intervene here. Seemingly wonderful modern people.
No, they started managing God. Yes, meaning
there is no God without managing God if you want a society that has more than a tribe of 150 people. That's the short answer. You cannot avoid power, and power is not a dirty thing, nor is it a super system that determines everything. There is no super system that determines everything except everything, and everything we don't know what to say about in this context. This is what Wittgenstein said one must be silent about, because you can't say anything about it, period. So, you cannot maintain a structure of hundreds of thousands, millions of people as in the ancient worlds and as in our worlds without certain structures that are more general. You won't be able to get rid of the instrumental picture. You need to refine it and know how to use it and know how to set a limit to it and know not to see it as identity and as the main human capacity that defines us. That is something completely different. From now on, what I'm telling you is this. I try to be a pluralist with a small p. Not a pluralist in the sense that I think the values of the Indian who burns his wife with the dead husband are equal to my value that a person needs due process before I take him and accuse him in court. No, I'm closer to the British officer who told him 100% you have a wonderful culture. In our culture, anyone who does that is simply hanged from a tall tree. So that's not my pluralism. Not relativism, that's also, you have to be simple-minded to believe in relativism, a bit like realism in the ancient sense of the word. Pluralism in the sense that I understand that every society, even now, anywhere in the world, is always a plurality of groups and communities. And each of them somehow participates in this big thing by being able to turn a few wheels that turn wheels. Similar wheels turn in other communities, but there will never be one that turns all the wheels that turn. There isn't, it's a kind of family resemblance. It's a kind of these Venn diagrams that overlap with each other. And I wouldn't want to give up the moral potential of any community. Yes, I'm hinting here at some Berlin, but not in his sense. That's already a complicated story. We won't get into it. I want its moral potential. I think its people deserve to live. I want them as part of my identity. And I also don't have a perspective from which to tell them, wow, you have to stop now, you know? And therefore, I'm talking about a much slower pace, about much less anger, about much less self-righteousness, about much, wow, brother, the Haredim are the community with the oldest population, the most happy and elderly in the world, along with the Japanese. Wow, I want that. I don't want to give up on that, brother, especially not as I get closer to those ages.
Well, good luck.
No, really, I'm not talking about Haredim. I can talk about other communities.
No, that's I'm talking about those who shirk responsibility. And look, there are things that are bigger than us, meaning
Most things.
there are things we have no way of changing, meaning the war in Iran. Can I change it? Can I say now, stop, calm down, and all that? No. Meaning you have to know how to live with.
Know what to fight, you mean? But I'm not talking from that order. I'm talking from the moral order.
I'm talking to you now about morality, meaning here I can only protest, and next time I won't vote for people who drag me into unnecessary wars, which is a moral decision. I'm talking about how religions supposedly brought us morality. I say supposedly, but the bottom line is that today they demonstrate they are far, far, far from it, because people like you came in and or like others who talk about morals and ethics, and it's not just from our scriptures, but from a general view of human beings and concepts of how we should live, to let others live and let myself live.
I don't think like you. First of all, I think I'm not talking about religion, because religion is already a structure of the after Christianity, and it has institutions, and yes, and it obligates believers with some internal thing and blah, blah, blah. I'm talking about religiosity. Religiosity, or the relation to the world as an animistic system of souls, as I called it, is the foundation of humanity, if you want to call it that. This metaphysics we talked about, this affinity to things, is a foundation. It's it's at the source of things. Without it, we wouldn't be who we are. That's why I said there is only one metaphysics, or one big background image that man was always inside of until the 20th century, if you will. Meaning that religion, I don't like to say religion, but the religious developments, the ritual creates humanity, in my eyes. And the meaning of this is that the religious is non-biological human evolution. Now, what does that mean? You need to detach yourself from the idea of religion as we've experienced it since the 16th century.
But maybe we should separate the word religion and culture.
Religiosity. No, listen, it's always a relation to something beyond. It's always a relation to a personal entity that is beyond. It can't just be culture. You understand what I'm saying? You need the beyond here. You won't get rid of the beyond. The moment you get rid of the beyond, you get rid of Mickey's ability to be a different Mickey tomorrow. Do you want to be stuck with Mickey Miro of the year 69 or the year 84? No, that's not you anymore.
I feel like I'm developing all the time without this definition of religiosity. I don't define myself.
Nice. You develop by deviating from previous structures. You're suddenly able to leap.
That I agree with you. I'm constantly.
This deviation.
I break structures. I'm not captive to things.
Nice. So nice. So in the entire history of humanity,
Wittgenstein talks about it, that people are captured by a worldview, which is basically where you start from.
No, but yes, but I listen, I just want to say, I'm trying to say a few things as simply as possible. This idea that you can be inside religion or outside of it is an irrational idea. You were born religious and you will die religious. At least in the sense that you experience the world and your meaningful relationships as including something you can't put your finger on, which is like, it's not just, I don't remember your wife's name, but it's not just you and her. It's something that happens there.
Nice, but I don't call it religion.
You don't have to call it religion. Religion is something very specific, which is a structure that Christian, it's not related.
These are factors that are beyond my knowledge, which I acknowledge, meaning that I don't attribute them.
You don't need to attribute them to any specific theoretical framework. The moment you understand that this idea of something that is beyond always operated there and somehow drove, after all, this need to create an invisible world alongside the visible disenchanted world, always operated there in the background of religious developments. You understand that you are a creature of deviation. From here, you can say there's nothing, it's all a scam. Yes, like Adorno and those guys, no problem. You can, it's not irrational, and it's very much a matter of temperament and of what shaped you before. You have nothing from here. I'm not forcing you to believe in God, not to believe, but both moves are a leap of faith. And I think most people don't understand that atheism is a leap of faith. That we don't have a standpoint to be completely rational atheists, that it's always your belief that there is nothing behind it in the end.
By the way, I don't define myself as an atheist.
No, I know you don't. I'm talking intentionally about cultural trends. We're talking openly here.
Yes, I define myself as a product of Jewish culture. I'm not Jewish religion, Jewish culture.
Look, I'm even worse than you. I'm simply Jewish, meaning I don't need all that.
No, that's perfectly fine.
Not only am I Jewish, I'm also Western. And not only am I Western, I also have an Arab part because my family came, and a Sephardic part. And I don't look at myself that way at all. I see myself as the mix that I am. Well, anyone who knows me also knows that in my case, it's very clear. It's not good that you know me.
So I'll ask you a question to wrap things up. You know, we're talking about the old days. What a beautiful time. Do you see the sun? It's sometimes at this height, sometimes at another. You start to understand time. You understand it. It's not that you look at the clock. Look, I don't even have a watch because I like to know, but I'm still addicted to the clock on the phone.
Phone, yes, I was also without a watch for years before cell phones.
But look how beautiful it is that they would go to sleep when it's dark, wake up when there's light.
No, not wake up when there's light. Wake up at 11 at night.
Okay.
Wake up at 11 at night for about an hour or two. My Haredi and ex-Haredi friends still do that.
No, I'm not looking at those. I'm talking about ancient times.
Same thing. It's the same thing. In the entire history of humanity, people slept until 11, 10, 11, woke up, stayed up for 2 hours, took care of the house, talked to each other, just sat, did things, made sure no one was stealing their land around them, and went back to sleep until 6.
Yes, and didn't look at screens because there weren't any.
There weren't. But screens aren't only bad.
No, I'm not saying the screen is bad, but the screen takes me out of the social element. Meaning then I'm no longer the ant connected to many other ants and working together. Look how beautiful, what great wisdom of animals. That's why I also call them wise creatures that I want to learn from. And there's another expression that a lion that preys is not a bad lion. He's a hungry lion. Meaning,
to me, he's very bad. When my head is swallowed in his, to me, he's very, very bad. I demand from the whole world.
Fine, we'll call him bad, but that's to say that humans who say about wolves that they are bad, and about lions and about everyone is bad except humans. So I say, look a bit at the disenchanted world you're talking about. That's why I liked the division. Yes, that there is a longing for these things. You know, how beautiful. It's not something to be taken for granted, meaning that
it was always accompanied by the whole community coming together, beating the borders of the village to drive out the demons. Yes, that there is a longing for these things, you know, for the harvest. How beautiful! It's not something to be taken for granted. Meaning that it was always accompanied by the whole community coming together, beating the borders of the village to drive out the demons. The processes of the harvest itself were accompanied by a mythical image of what the gods or the great people did, and this whole thing to act as one organism. I'm writing a book now about rituals in general. It's fascinating. This need to act as one person, as having one personality, cured so many of our illnesses, mind and body. I studied Baluch Nali. I pedal lekomin. אנחנו אוהבים את טרנטיlos. the Kitali Tankadubos, they're coming from temple they build, hellish heat without shoes or with shoes with nails. They go up a hill and they arrive there 3 days later, boom, their immune system is in the sky where yours wouldn't have been.
Yes, but
Mental, boom. What?
we mustn't forget that people also died at a very young age from...
No, that's a different thing. I'm talking about Mauritius today, not who knows when. Today, right now in Mauritius, you can go do that.
Yes. Well, there are also people who do yoga, do Pilates, do many things to really release.
Those are rituals from after the axial age and its ideas, something else.
Of course, that's something else. Those are solutions for the mechanical world. Let's put it that way.
Okay, I agree. I pretty much agree with you.
Yes, that's something else.
But we need to say something about this whole screen issue you mentioned earlier. The concept of human individuality has gone through 3 waves. First, in the 10th, 9th, 11th centuries, there was no individuality at all because you didn't exactly die either. The parents return in communion, and when there are cyclical rituals, they live in a world, most people live in completely natural rituals as part of nature. They don't have our Christian time, right? They were of a world moving forward and salvation or no salvation, it doesn't matter, right? All that linear mechanical time. And only and these ideas of the individual with God inside them, right? Augustine and all that, they finally break through strongly in the 15th and 16th centuries. And then the religious individual is created with God inside as a conscience, and they constantly have to examine themselves. In the 17th century, the rational, utilitarian, economic individual replaces and overlays it. Both Marx and Smith are that same individual entrepreneur within a general system, yes, and so on. And in the late 18th, early 19th century, the romantic, authentic, original individual replaces the two previous ones. And the 60s revolution in the 20th century is its boom into our situation today. Just so we're aligned on how we went from being part of something big to boom, completely closed off in ourselves.
By the way, you mentioned Adam Smith.
And Ferguson?
The invisible hand.
The invisible hand appears on page 356. In
which chapter does it appear in?
In the text
The Wealth of Nations. The Wealth of Nations. Sorry.
All that, the Wealth of Nations and all that's written there is that if these scumbags, the landlords in Britain, decide to leave or raise prices, then as if by an invisible hand, the market will adjust, other buyers will buy. He was talking about the real estate market in terms of rents. It's not... I don't know what people made of it, but it fits very well.
That's what's beautiful. That's what's beautiful, that people took a word, a sentence, and blew it up. I mean, all of
neoliberalism, in a single drop of grammar of the sentence, of the use of the phrase, the invisible hand, all of neoliberalism.
Right. And he is also, yes, against planning and against all those things. Hayek talks about serfdom and serfdom to programming, to planning. And
you know that Hayek is exactly a neoliberal. I mean,
of course, he got a Nobel Prize for it. And there were 2 of them there, him and Schumpeter. Who basically...
and Friedman Chicago.
Yes. That's also a difference in age, but yes.
Schumpeter is the most serious, by the way.
Yes. Yes, although there is also a lot of criticism there regarding the model.
I haven't read anything that I don't have criticism of.
Yes. That's
including my own book.
Okay. So without a doubt, a pleasure, another book you're writing, and it's thought-provoking. What can I tell you?
Thank you very much, Mickey. I really appreciate it. I so enjoyed talking with you.
Me too. So best of luck, Dr. Yoav Ashkenazi. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Dr. Miro.